Hey Todd, how's it going?
Not too shabby. Enjoying a nice, hot, muggy day here in New York City.
Yeah, nice. I'm enjoying a cold, windy day here in Iceland.
I'll take mine for now because we've had a long enough winter as it is.
Yes, exactly. I would definitely would want to trade places with you right now, but I'm inside, so it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, okay, so I mean, thanks for taking the time out. I just wanted to chat with you about your 90-day year program, which I've been
Yeah.
using. As you know, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 4 years now, and so I've tested a lot of different approaches, a lot of different programs to kind of manage my time and my productivity.
Yeah.
So far, I honestly have to say that this is the best system I've come across, and it's really, had a dramatic impact on my life. And I could just show you here, like, this is because I got the 90-day year right here, the handbook, right?
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is how much I've used of it already. It's like 300 plus pages, so I'm serious about it. Like I've been using it every single
Well,
day.
I apologize to all the trees out there for Daniel's commitment to his performance.
Yeah, this was like a spreadsheet or something, but that doesn't work. You got to use the pen and paper. That's how I feel, or at least
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to chat with you about the system and kind of go through it because I've been using it now since I believe February, and it's really amazing. And um, you know, I kind of maybe first like kind of just want to chat with you about like why you think this stuff is important. Like how does it really like why is it so important for us as entrepreneurs? I know this from personal experience how important it is to be
Sure.
productive and stuff. But what do you think?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I've been able to basically dance between the two worlds of professional athletes, Olympic athletes, and then entrepreneurs and what I call corporate athletes, like people who are trying to achieve and they've got ambition. And so, both of those groups of people, especially in the entrepreneurial side of things, we're only compensated by the stuff that we produce and get out there into the world, right? Like
Yeah.
we've all been beaten over the head of the person with the best idea or the best mousetrap kind of wins. And that's not really the case, especially when you think about the pace of change that we're in right now. Um, like technology is moving at such a rapid speed that if you rest on your laurels, if you kind of just stay with a status quo of I'm always going to do it this way, then you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. You're going to be left behind. And so at the end of the day, we're rewarded by the action that we take on the field of play is what I call it, right? Like
Mhm.
we're rewarded because we get things out there. And it's so important for us as entrepreneurs to learn how to execute in an efficient, effective, and rapid way because we have ADHD. Like I mean, we are idea people, and I'm not trying to take that away from people because at the end of the day, that's who I am too. But we need to produce. And the 90-day year, like, it wasn't built because I was like, oh, I need to create a program for people so I can go and sell something online. I've had this out there for 13 years, started in the sports space, then went into the corporate, now it's in the entrepreneurial world. And it was built on the back of slowly helping people implement proven systems based on neuroscience, human biology of how we most effectively change and how we can also rewire our minds to thinking naturally successfully. Like, I mean, you see that.
Mhm.
Yes, I mean, in your groups, you've got two people who come in, they have the same level of skill. One might have a little bit more, one might have a little bit less, but either way, they're both presented with the same information, and yet some people grab onto it and they take it and they work it and they run up against a bunch of obstacles, but they just keep on climbing over them.
Mhm.
Someone else will come up or will read something and they'll bump up against a little bit of resistance, and then automatically it's like, oh well, this thing doesn't work for me,
Mhm.
as if they've lost all of their own creative powers in problem solving. And so one is what I call a wow mindset. One's an ow mindset. One's motivated by gain. One's motivated by pain. And those people who are motivated by pain end up constantly starting over from scratch because they get some momentum going and then some resistance sets in or some sort of personal dialogue goes on in their head that says, oh, well, Daniel's so much further ahead than me in the e-commerce game, so I can't catch up anyway.
Mhm.
Or, oh, well, he kind of had a bit of a natural entrepreneurial style to him, and I'm not as good a marketer, or whatever the case is. And the reality is there's so many different ways to win at the game of business. Yeah, there's some people who can win because they're great marketers. There's other people who can win because they're great product builders, and there's room for everyone. Or there's great people who are great at operations and they can beat you on streamlining things. So anyways, the point is that the whole is 90-year structured is it helps to rewire our minds to think naturally successfully based on the way that you're working the system, which is a really important component, because it's one thing to get results from something. It's one thing to keep it going consistently as a habit over time. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm more interested in than getting people to even just successes is I want to make this just a natural part of who you are now. Mm-hmm. And so at the end of the day, we need to be able to execute efficiently in our businesses, because if we don't, we have a lot of wasted time at the end of our months.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, I was thinking about this today, kind of like our human nature is sometimes not ideal for, for example, running a business and stuff like that, because, we're kind of like cavemen still, like our nature, right? So we kind of have to almost like circumvent that and put something in place so we can like get the most out of us, because we have a lot of good stuff still inside of us, that's for sure. But we gotta get that out and kind of, circumvent the bad stuff, right? It gets in the way.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even when we take a look at biologically, because my background is like sports science, and so I understand how that brain is built over time. And we're in this really clunky stage of human development. Mm-hmm. We have this reptilian brain that's sitting in the back of our heads that's motivated off of fear and flight and fight and, feeding and stuff like that. And this is a major decision center in our heads. Mm-hmm. And yet we have this powerful frontal lobe that is all about judging and reasoning, higher thinking powers, which over time has been slowly getting larger and larger. But these two things are constantly fighting against each other. Mm-hmm. And that's the dichotomy that us entrepreneurs live inside of is we dream up an idea. We've never done it before. The very nature of not doing something before is it breeds a whole bunch of what? Uncertainty. Mm-hmm. And when there's uncertainty, now that's where the gap of either fear, someone who's owl-brained can kind of take hold and it stops them from taking, or someone who's wow-minded who loves excitement and exploration and adventure and growth, they take hold of that uncertainty and they go, oh wow, I can't wait to see what happens. I can't wait to see what the possibility is. Mm-hmm. And I love taking the people who, maybe over time have been maybe motivated by pain in some ways, and I love shifting that perspective to now their life doesn't have as much friction anymore with regards to the goals that they want to achieve because they've helped to rewire it neurologically. Mm-hmm. And that's where that 90 year was really started from, was that.
It's almost like I
just added on. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's almost like rewiring your brain for like the modern society, right? It's not, you're not fighting wolves and we're not in grave danger really. So that stuff needs to go away, and we need to see that it's all opportunity, right, and positive things. It's kind of like that. Yeah.
And then of course, so that's one piece of it. But at the end of the day, what everyone here would be listening to should really care about is, okay, well, how does this get me results? It's built in a way so that you can get results really quickly in your business. Because if you think about every business, essentially there's 5 pillars that make up every business. There's the financial pillar of your business. There's the marketing, sales, and product pillar. There's the operations and technology pillar. Mm-hmm. There's the distribution channels pillar. So for your group, the distribution channel that everyone's using is either Amazon or they're using their own e-commerce web. Those are 2 different distribution channels. Mm-hmm. Or they could be using retail or wholesalers. And then the final pillar is the leadership pillar, the leadership team, the culture in your business and stuff. But the one thing that holds all those 5 pillars together is an execution system. Mm-hmm. And that's what most businesses lack, is a really strong execution and achievement system in their business. And that's where the 90-day year comes in and ties those things together. And when you have your financial pillar, your operations and tech pillar, your marketing and sales pillar, when you've got all of them running the same execution framework, you just get this compounding rapid effect. And that's why I'll say, if you run the 90-day year consecutively in your business consistently, you're able to produce 4 times as much as someone. And honestly, I'm being very conservative with that number. Yeah. Because feedback loops, when you just keep on getting one win after another, it's geometric and it keeps on compounding. And the great thing is the person who's listening, you're shipping a whole bunch of great stuff out into the marketplace. And it's tough to beat a business that can move that quickly.
Yeah, it's all about gaining that momentum, and that's why I think habit is also so important, because it gets you in that rhythm, and you build that momentum, right? And I think, at least for me, like the 90-day year really helps me, because at the start of every day, like I take out my planner and I figure out what are the most important things that I need to get done today. And it's simple, it's not too much, it's something that I can actually accomplish today, and all things that are important to move my business forward. So it really helps me with overwhelm. Like I don't feel overwhelmed at the start of every day. I have like 100 things, I don't know what to do. Like now I can actually break it down like in 50 minutes, and then I can just focus for the rest of my day, right?
Yeah, and you hit on the big thing. I mean, that's the one thing that I know when I first got started out, I always had this goal. As a young kid, I knew I wanted to be the master of my own domain and my own master of my own destiny. And I thought, probably being a business owner was going to be the vehicle for me. And so you have this like romantic idea of what business is going to be like, and then you start your business and you're like, holy crap, I'm crappy at a lot of the parts of business. I'm good at like one or two of these things, and there's like 99 things I need to be, or 99 things that the business needs to be good at. I mean, I was never good at finances. I was never good at that stuff. I was never good at customer service and taking care of people. That was always a real strength for me. But selling, I was terrible at selling. In fact, when I was before I kind of started some of my businesses, I worked for Xerox. I worked for some different companies. And I got fired from every single sales job I ever. I was terrible, because I was one of those people. I would go in and I would sit down and I would be able to build a great relationship with you, but I would never close anybody. And because my idea of selling was, the most likable person is going to win, and that's not true at all. You've got to. There's a framework to how to basically persuade someone to take action, and I was not very good at it. And then I eventually learned it. And then, 6 years ago, I ended up winning the world's greatest salesperson thing in Cannes, France. And that was a byproduct of me really overcoming myself, because again, I was not a natural salesperson at it. So we get overwhelmed, to get to your point. Like we get overwhelmed, and having a great system to achieve in your day productivity or taking care of projects helps to eliminate that feeling of overwhelm. That's just a natural part of being a business owner.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I mean, I feel like you were talking about before, the fears and the insecurities, they kind of also prevent that momentum from ever building, because it holds us back. So getting rid of the overwhelm, getting like this certainty builds up confidence, builds up momentum. And then it helps, at least for me, it helps me with like kind of like my mental and emotional toughness, because business is tough. And you have to know exactly what you're doing. You have to be sure to keep on going, or you will kind of stop, or you'll switch directions very easily, which is not good.
Yeah. And I mean, business becomes really tough too when, I know the e-commerce game really well. I coach and advise a lot of people that are in your space too. And you get on Amazon and you've got people who end up hijacking your listings. Or you've got people who or you've got Amazon who, like, you might have a product that's doing amazing, and then all of a sudden Amazon decides that they want to sell the same product, and now they're, taking over a bit of that game from you. And so I talk about mental toughness is your ability to be flexible and adaptable despite the circumstances and despite what the world is giving you at that time. Like my athletes, when we go into the Olympics, it doesn't operate in a vacuum. It doesn't operate perfectly. One of my rowers in the 2012 London Olympics, it was a windy day on the lake, and those waters were really, really choppy, and that's tough on rowers. Some of them would get into the water, and they're just, if your mind is on the circumstance around you, like, this is so not ideal, and I wish it was back in Wisconsin where we had the perfect lake and conditions all the time and it was never windy. You've just lost the race because your mind is on the wrong thing. So you've got to be flexible and adaptable. And those of us that are in business, we have to be flexible and adaptable because technology moves really quickly on us. Things shift below our feet all the time. And so it's our creative juices and our imagination and our ability to be flexible and adaptable is the thing that gives us our edge. That's what we need to embrace. And so that flexibility, adaptability is built into the way that 90-day year model works for people too.
Yeah. But at the same time, it keeps us focused, and on track. This is huge. Yeah. One thing that also fascinated me, I remember when going through the program, you talk a lot about working with athletes and how you used to train Olympians and stuff like that. And I used to do professional sports myself when I was very young, but I relate a lot to like that world. When it comes to being an entrepreneur, I kind of found myself again. I got injured, I couldn't play sports for a while, and then I kind of found myself again in being an entrepreneur. And I think that's really interesting. So maybe like talk a little bit more about that, how you feel like those two things are, pretty much very similar.
So what was the sport that you played?
I played soccer.
Oh, you're a soccer guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a study that happened last year where they were trying to find risk tolerance in society, like who has the highest tolerance for risk.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurs and athletes came out at the top of the risk tolerance. And in fact, they're the exact same amount of risk tolerance. The only group of people that were above them were generals in the military. They kind of beat them by about, I think it was 2 points, which makes sense. I mean, they're dropping bombs and they're deciding on who's living, who's dying. So we'll give that to them. But so it matches up with my experience of working with athletes and entrepreneurs. Is, an athlete, they're going out there, and a lot of times they're pursuing this goal of whether it's the Olympics or even guys who are trying to make it into the pros. Maybe they're in the semi-pros and they weren't the guy who got, they're not the LeBron Jameses who got drafted in the, first overall in the first round. There's a way larger group of people who are still trying to chase down their dreams. And yet they've got other friends who graduated from university or college, and those people are starting their careers, earning maybe more money than them and all that kind of stuff. And like what I love about people like that is that there's a lot of risk involved there, because they perceive, they're like, man, am I missing out on opportunities? Like, should I really give up this dream of, becoming a pro or, trying to make it to the Olympics? And I mean, it's always my job, I think, to keep them, focused on, no, listen, like, you've got a long life after you that you can go out and pursue some sort of career. And the great thing about the time and the day and age that we're living in is that, I mean, who stays in a career for more than freaking 5 years many times? Many of us, I mean, how many of us are going to stick inside the same business for 5 years? I mean, you never know where it's going to evolve into. Yeah. So athletes do that, where they're constantly questioning whether or not, should I really be doing this? And those people who are out there in business that are just starting out, there's so much like there's doubt, or there's insecurity that breezes like, man, am I cut out for this? Is this even the right thing? Is this the right product that I should be doing? Is this the right marketing strategy? So, and yet they continue to do it. Like, I love that kind of stuff. That's why, I love serving the people in the 90-year community, is like really trying to, it's more than just teaching people how to execute in their business. The great thing and the biggest feedback that we've gotten from people is, I feel like my attitude has completely shifted. Like this real deep-rooted sense of self-confidence that I have, that, I'm going to get smashed in the mouth a bunch of times in the context of building a business, but you can't stop me. Like, you just can't. Like, I'm going to keep going. And that's the stuff. And if there's any win I'm trying to give to people, it's that, is that, I've layered on so much of that mental toughness stuff with athletes into how the 90-day year, and even the way that I talk to people and coach people and stuff, because I'm like, no, you got smashed in the face. Today was a bad day. Get back out there tomorrow. Like, tomorrow is the brand new day. It's a blank slate for you right now. Take the way that we talk about running your day and just, let's plan it tonight. Let's work through it, and tomorrow will be a new day. As entrepreneurs, we can afford a bad day. We all have bad days. What we can't afford is a bad week. So it's always like, when people come and say like, oh, today was a terrible day, or, things blew up, and the reality is we have, there's a lot of people who are like, they struggle because they're actually caretakers of like friends and family members. And they come in, they're like, my mom's in hospice care, or, my grandma's not doing very well. Those are all real things. And we are typically the ones who end up taking care of family members, because why? We as entrepreneurs are good at taking responsibility. And so that stuff typically falls on us. And I'm like, hey, I get it. This is just another way for you to prove to yourself and the world around you that you've got the shoulders to kind of carry the weight of this stuff. So those two worlds of how athletes have to work through their challenges, now entrepreneurs have to work through their challenges, are just, they're so mirror images. The great thing is entrepreneurs have more control over what they can do with their life more than the athletes do. But conversely though, I think it is harder to be an entrepreneur than it is to be an athlete. I mean, and I know this from personal experience. I've just worked with so many of them for so long. So
it's definitely more complicated, more things you got to wrap your head around and organize and things like that, right? Yeah. So I guess, I mean, one thing too that, because I'm recommending the program to like everyone I know, and I want our audience to understand how important this stuff is. Because, I mean, for me, it's like, it's the business side. You need to know how to organize and run your business, what to do, but you also need to understand yourself, how to organize and run yourself. And I think that comes first, because if you can't do that, you're not going to run and organize your business correctly. So I think it's so important to do this. Like, you need to learn this first. This is something you have to get down. And then the business, like whatever business, as long as you have a good strategy, you can execute and make it happen.
Yeah. Well, it gets to, there's this great poem that was written in, I think it was like 1346 or 1246 by this, was he a bishop or what? But he was in the archdiocese of the English church, and he said, when I started out in the world, I wanted to change the world. And I tried to change the world, and I found that it was really difficult to change the world. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to change my country. And I worked hard at trying to change my country, and I realized that it was really hard to change my country. So I decided, I'm going to change my community. And I did the same thing, try to change my community, but that didn't work. And I said, you know what, I'll just change my family. And when I couldn't change my family, I realized at the end of my days, if I would have just changed myself, that could have impacted my family, which then could have changed my community, and the community could have changed my nation, which would then ultimately would have changed the world. And so you're exactly, when we learn to self-lead, there's no telling where that can go. And that gets to the point of what you're experiencing when you're working through how the 90-day year is structured daily. It's all about self-leadership. You reflect a little bit on what were your wins, what are the issues that I'm bringing up in my business that I need to solve. And it's just, there's this great collection of how we then capture that stuff and move forward. And it's moving that ball down the field so that we can ultimately score at the end of our 90 days or even throughout the 90 days.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this ripple effect. It comes from you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, thank you so much for the chat. I really enjoyed this. And, I want to say thank you for creating the program as well. It's really deeply affected me in a positive way. I really appreciate that from the bottom of my heart.
Absolutely. Happy to take the time, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.